the Crossout series known as Crossout's Tips for Beginners. And today we're going to talk about are legendary and relic weapons really worth the gold? Now, yes and no, because some of them are powerful and they're well worth the money, and if you set up the right vehicle with them and put armor around them and what have you and just make a really solid build, you can really do some work with these guns. But then again, on the other hand, there are some that are just way too expensive for what they are. Now, why don't we go ahead and get into this? We'll go to the market. Excuse me. Weapons. We'll start with the relics because there's not as many. So I want to say that all of these are usable in their own way, but there are some on this list that are not worth the 20,000 plus that they are going for. And I know there might be some people out there that disagree with me, but this is just my opinion and what I think is best and everything, so keep that in mind. Okay, so number one, the Scorpion. Now, the Scorpion is good for dealing heavy cabin damage, and it also is good for ripping off enemies' weapons. But at the same time, you can do the same thing for the most part with any cannon in the game. You can run 3 judges, which are a rarity, blue rarity, and you can do some major work with them. And if you play it right, you can dominate lobbies with a setup like that if you have the build properly set up. And you can also play at a very low power score, or at least lower than you would if you were running, say, 2 Scorpions, which is pretty much the meta right now. A lot of people run 2 Scorpions, or they'll run 2 Pulsars, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. So, the Scorpions, I think they would be okay if they were 10 to 15,000. I think that they would be worth it because they're not a terrible weapon. They're not the greatest weapon in my opinion, but they're not terrible. And they did recently in the last few months get a buff. So, yeah, but anyways, they are part of the meta, hence the second most expensive, or no, third most expensive right now in terms of relics. The Typhoons, they're good, but I feel like you can easily rock 2 Tsunamis and do just as well, because the Tsunamis I'm pretty sure have pretty much the same damage. So the only thing you're really rocking differently on this is you're getting a perk, which is hitting an enemy vehicle disables its controls for 1 second. That could be super useful in some situations, but is it 20-some thousand worth it? No. I would say that if you want to run a cannon setup, don't go with the Typhoons. I would much rather see people go with something like the Tsunamis or the Mammoths, something like that. In my opinion, those are just overall better, and that's especially if you want to keep your power score lower than if you were running something like this. But again, if you want to spend the money, you could. I guess it could go either way, but again, just my opinion. The Porcupines, do we even need to talk about the Porcupines? There's a reason why the Porcupines are the most expensive relic on the market. If you look here, they only have 1800 power score, and that's in consideration of the other ones that we have here: 3000, 2400, 2400, 3600, 3600, you know, lowest power score out of all the relics, and can easily be the best one. So if you have the gold to spend on these, I would say out of all the relics, I would go for the Porcupines. I would get at least 2 or 3 of them, if not more. They're only 3 energies, so if you're making a high level build anyways, you could easily make a high level build with like 4 or 5 of these if you had the gold to do so. And if you got good with them, you could dominate entire lobbies probably by yourself. I don't know, maybe, who knows. The Breaker, It's not bad, but I don't feel that it's worth 23,000 gold. Same thing with the Firebug and the Punisher. There's other things of a lower rarity that you can make better use of, which now brings up the topic of legendary weapons. Now, the Pulsar, I think, is really good. It's another meta. You see it a lot in Clan Wars and in high level lobbies, and it's a really, really good plasma gun, or a cannon, if you will. And it says that for every 100 meters past the projectile, by the projectile, its explosive radius is increased by 0.25 meters, so a quarter of a meter. So not too bad, but again, I feel like there's other stuff that you can do just as well with, aka the Tsunami. It's a quarter damage lower, quarter of a bar of damage lower, and its perk, in my opinion, is way better. So I personally prefer the Tsunamis, and they're half the price, or damn near half the price. So you can see where I'm getting at with this. Arbiters. The Arbiters, I wish they were a lower price. I think they're well worth the money if they were about 2,000, maybe a little less, or whatever. Somewhere around 1,900 to 2,100, I think, would be a fair price. So I mean, it's not too far off as is. So I would suggest this if you got the money. It's really good. Rock 4 of those, because if you're going to go 2, you might as well go 4. Harvester. Now, a lot of you might know that this got a nerf in the recent months. It's nowhere near as good as it used to be. Its durability is still great. If anything, it's better. Its damage is pretty good, but its actual damage output is... Let me think of a way to put this. It's not as good as it used to be. It's not going to kill as quick unless you have either the spark to go with it or some kind of flamethrowers to go with it. That's where you get a lot of your damage, because as you see, the perk says deals 135% more damage to enemies influenced by negative effects and to heated vehicle parts. If you mix this with a spark or a flamethrower, it's going to do a massive amount of damage. So you're going to get roughly 2.5 of the damage bar. It's going to be insane. Excuse me, I keep burping. I just got done eating dinner. So is it worth 1,600? I'd say yeah, it's worth it. The Helios, another meta for Clan Wars especially. Now for 1,800 gold, that's not bad. Considering it's a legendary, I don't think it's a big deal to ask 1,800 for it. Is it a good weapon? Is it worth it? I would say no, because out of all of the legendaries, there's so many other choices that would be way better. Now the perk does say the enemy's cabin is dealt additional damage if all projectiles of the volley hit. But that's if you can hit all projectiles on your target. And that's a big problem. Some people aren't super accurate. Some people may not be good with this weapon. And in turn, it's going to be crap for them. And I've seen people, even in Clan Wars, that just do not do very well with this weapon because they can't land all their shots. And it's very hard because in Clan Wars, people are smart, they move around a lot, so it's going to be difficult to land those on target, which is, again, why I prefer cannons. You shoot once, you lead your target, you hit the target, it's going to do a massive instant amount of damage, and then you can back off and cloak up or use a shield, and you're good to go until your shots are ready again. The Retcher's pretty good. It's not bad. It's just the fact that you need to be accurate with it. If you can get used to it, you can dominate. And you can blow people's jennies up, everything, super fast. So this one, I do say, is it worth it? Yes, it is. The Reaper, is it worth it? I would say yes, but only if you're rocking like 2 of them at a time. I would definitely use 2. I wouldn't use 1. If you're using 1, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. You got to use 2 of these for it to be really good. And then we'll move on to the next page. The Spark, we already mentioned that. It's really good. It's a meta. It can be comboed with a lot of different things. It's a really good, well-rounded gun to have. It's not meant for damage. It's meant for its perk. And if you want to read the perk, you can pause the video. The Mandrake, I know I'm kind of going out of order at this point. The Mandrake, though, it can be good. It just depends on how you use it. But I would say 50-50 on that, whether it's worth it or not. That one could be left up to you, whether you think it is or not. It's really hard to say with that one because it can be really bad or it can be really good. It's super situational. The Cyclone, super solid autocannon. I'm actually picking up 3 of these when I get some gold here in a few days, and I'm going to rock it on a spider build. It's going to be dope. It does a lot of damage if you use it properly. If you can land your shots, even at range, it's going to do a lot of damage with 3 of them stacked. I've seen the damage output on these things, and it's absolutely insane when you rock 3 of them. The Hurricanes can be good. If you're smart with the Hurricanes, you can make super good use of them. But are they worth the money to buy them? I would say probably not. I would only get like maybe 1 of these and then get some Pyre missiles. Or if you wanted to have a lower power score, I would only go with Pyre missiles and use like 6 to 7 of those. And you should be at a pretty good power score, not too high, not too low, and still be able to move around the map and do some work. But I would highly suggest using a Chameleon Mark II with that. The Mammoth, we mentioned this one as well. The Mammoth is super solid. Every hit that you land increases your next shot by 20% for 10 seconds. And it stacks up to 3 times, but it resets when you miss. So you got to be accurate with it if you want to make use of the perk and everything. But I mean, they're super solid. They have a lot of durability, so they won't die super quick. So if you want a super solid cannon that's a high power score, I would highly suggest the Mammoth. It's really good, and for only 1,800 gold, you can't beat it for the price. It's well worth it. The Fortunes, I've used these in the past. I don't know if they got a buff or a nerf in the last few months or anything, but these are really good if you can be accurate with them. It's another one of those things you need to be accurate with them, because you can't turn them 360 degrees to shoot. You can only turn them with a limited turn angle, so you need to pick your shots and make sure you got a lot of ammo, because it only comes with 12 volleys, but each volley does shoot 3 projectiles, and if you can make these hit, they do a lot of damage. You can easily use these to take out hover builds if you can lead your shot and compensate for the trajectory, because hovers float. It's great for taking out hovers. Same thing with the Mammoths too. But I would suggest having 2 to 3 of these, because that's going to be the sweet spot. If you just use 1 of these, you're not going to see a significant amount of damage, even though the damage is maxed out. You're going to want to run 2 or 3 of these, and if you do, you will be surprised at how much these little things do for damage. The Hammerfalls, those are not worth it. These are not worth it. I can tell you that right now. I don't care if they're only going for 1787. They're not worth it, because you can use goblins. You can use like 4 goblins with 4 radiators, or you can use 3 I can't remember the name of the shotgun. Thunderbolt. You can use 3 Thunderbolts, do even more damage than these do. The perk on them is pretty good, but it's nowhere near as good as it used to be. I ran these for quite a while until they nerfed them, and then I didn't feel like they were worth the gold to get them anymore, or even use them anymore. Not to mention that with the recent power score change, they went from I think 1,300 power score or something like that, or 1,500 power score, I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark, up to 2,000. So it's not really worth it, and considering you would want to run a wheeled wedge build, there's no way that you would want to run this at a high power score lobby. You wouldn't want to use this in Clan Wars, because you're only going to be able to use two of these. If you want radiators, an engine, a cloak, whatever you want to use, you're only going to be able to have two of these because you have to compensate for that. 5 energy is quite a bit. So, next page. Aspects, are they worth it? No. I don't care if they're 1300 gold. No. Those are trash. You can get better machine guns that are purple or even blue. Draco, highly recommend these. If you mix these with a Spark or the Harvester, or even if you just run 2 or 3 of these by themselves, they're really good. But I would highly suggest using a cloak with these. Again, Chameleon Mark II would be phenomenal with these, and for 1500 gold a piece, that's really not that bad. The imps, they can be really good, and from what I've seen, they can be pretty strong, but I'm kind of 50-50 on that, because it's whether you want to spend the 1500 gold, I think, yeah, 1600 you might as well say. 1600 gold on it or not, that's totally up to you. But I would recommend checking out some lower ranked, lower rarity machine guns. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my freaking words. Because to be fair, even if they are good, machine guns and stuff like that, they don't do well in high power score lobbies. In high power score lobbies, you want stuff that's going to have a lot of durability. Like these have a decent amount of durability, not a crap ton, but a decent amount. Plus you can hide them. You can mount stuff on all sides of them, so you can cover them up with armor and still make really good use of them. The Nidhogg's, I would say they're not that bad, but my personal opinion is I think you might be better off running with 3 of the purple variants of these. I'll show you what those are real quick, because those are 1400 gold, and I just don't feel like they're all that worth it. But you can run 3 of the Fafnir and still do a pretty good amount of damage. Now, they did nerf this a while back, but I don't think that they nerfed it enough to really make it unusable, is what I'm saying. They're still a pretty good weapon. If you can be accurate and you can get close range for 260 gold a piece, and you got 3 of them, you know, that's less than 1,000 gold. That's a pretty good deal. That's not bad. So I would suggest these over the legendary counterparts any day. So, all in all, are relics and legendaries really worth your time, your gold, your grinding, whatever, however you want to get your gold, buying it? I would say it's 50-50. Some of them are, some of them are not. And it just depends on, you know, what you have as a selection on a lower rarity. Could that be used just as good or better? And we went over a lot of that. Relics, most of those are not worth it. You can find a legendary or even a purple epic variant of it that is just as good or better in some situations. So I would not recommend getting a whole lot of the relics. I would recommend getting maybe the porcupine, and that's pretty much about it. If you got the money, go ahead, scoop it up, but the rest of them I would not recommend. Legendaries, there's just so much to go based off of, and there's so many of them. I would say, yeah, it's worth it to get legendaries if you're willing to run a high power score build and you can make a good high power score build. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I stumbled over my words like a complete idiot at times, but it happens. When I get to talking a lot and everything, I think my mouth gets ahead of my brain, and my brain poops out on me and stops working. So, but if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, hit notifications. You know when I upload and when I go live. And I live stream more than I actually upload actual like edited videos, so that might be an option that you want to do. So yeah, anyways, hope you had a good time watching the video. Hope you learned some things. Hopefully I dropped the knowledge bomb on you and helped you make some wiser decisions when it comes to high tier weapons. But this is Draconis, and I'm signing out. Peace.